All right, let's see, who do we got here? We have the officer for position 1.
Your Honor, the officer has been properly subpoenaed. The officer is on his way. We do not have an ETA for the officer at this time. The officer's badge number is 3180, Officer Quentin Hill.
What's the name again?
Officer Quentin Hill, Your Honor, with the College Park Police Department, badge number 3180.
All right, what about on position 2?
Same officer, Your Honor, and same issue.
So is the officer on the way? I guess I'm,
Based on my last communication, Your Honor, yes, the officer is on his way.
right, so we need to wait a few minutes, what you're saying. What about the officer in position 3?
Position 3, Your Honor, we have properly subpoenaed the officer, and the officer's badge number is 7523, Officer Veronica Hernandez with the Atlanta Police Department, Your Honor. And we're just waiting for the officer to appear.
Okay, Mr. Olaf sent an email. He may be a few minutes late. And what about position 4? I'm done.
Position 4, Your Honor, is Detective Charles Needham, Needham, with the South Fulton Police Department, badge number 235. Officer has been properly subpoenaed, and we're just waiting for the officer to appear.
All right, what about 5? Sparrow.
Yes, Your Honor. Position 5 is Officer Kathleen Leonce, Leonce, with the Atlanta Police Department, badge number 7364. Officer has been properly subpoenaed, and we're just waiting for the officer to appear.
All right, is that on both 5 and 6?
Position 6, Your Honor, it's a different police officer, Officer Carter, with the Atlanta Police Department, badge number 7655. Officer has been properly subpoenaed, and we're just waiting for the officer to appear.
All right, what about 7?
7 is Officer Marlon Quinn with the South Fulton Police Department, badge number 0212. Officer has been properly subpoenaed, and we're just waiting for the officer to appear.
All right, what about position 8?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Ernell Winfrey for the state. Position 8 is ready. Detective Soroka from the Roswell Police Department is present.
Okay, and we got that LT for position 9, right?
Yes, Your Honor. Position 9, we have the officer here.
Ms. Beck here, so we'll just go with Ms. Beck's case first since we're missing. All right, sorry, LT. What, do you need to go first?
Yeah, I'll do whatever the court.
LT, do you need to go first or you? Oh, why don't, no, no, yeah, come on, it's your off day. Come on up. So we got Jamal Pinson. You're off today. Come on, LT. Sorry, Detective.
I just got off this morning.
Oh, well then come on, then you've been, yeah, no. Yeah, that one, tap that microphone. Tap that microphone, make sure it's working now. Okay, yeah. All right, you raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, you can have a seat. State, spell your name for the court reporter.
Lieutenant Vonda Victor, first initial is V, last name is Victor, V as in Victor, VICTOR.
All right. All right. Then we'll take yours, Ms. Beck.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Well, we'll wait on.
Oh,
client.
we're waiting for the, yes.
Oh, there's Mr. Olaf. Okay, I saw Mr. Olaf. All right, this is position 9. 23 CP 216725, 316 days without indictment. Aggravated assault, possession of firearm during the commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies and unauthorized possession of a prohibited item by an inmate. Jamal Pinson, Penson. All right, go ahead. What says the state and the lieutenant's been previously sworn?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Lieutenant Victor, thank you so much for being here. Where were you employed as of March 3rd, 2023?
With the Fulton County Sheriff's Office.
And in what capacity?
As a lieutenant at the jail.
And were you post certified at that time?
Yes, sir.
And what is your current, where are you currently employed
At the Fulton County Jail
and in what capacity?
as one of the lieutenants.
Thank you. Let's go over the events of March 3rd, 2023. Can you walk us through what happened?
February.
I'm sorry, February, the warrant is for March. Yes. February 17th, 2023.
Yes, on that day, maintenance was called to the floor to deal with some plumbing issues. They initially arrived around a little after 10 o'clock. They went to the first zone. When they finished, they went to zone 200. While they were in the zone, the maintenance man, who's identified as Mr. Moss, and his colleague went in. Mr. Moss initially goes upstairs to check a pipe chase, and he comes down to the second level, checks another pipe chase, and then they also check subsequent cells. Not for sure what actually transpired verbally between him and some inmates inside the zone, but then he exits the zone. And when he's exiting the zone, Mr. Pinson is seen at the doorway. He is standing there initially talking, having some type of conversation with the maintenance man, which is Mr. Moss. He raises up his shirt and you see the heel of a man-made knife, which we call a shank. They had continued to have some type of conversation. He walks towards him. He pulls out the shank, brandishes it. The maintenance man grabs something to defend himself. Mr. Pinson goes back to the door. He's still standing at the door. Then he pulls the shank out and goes back towards him again.
And how were you made aware of the incident of February 17th, 2023?
Mr. Moss contacted the watch commander's office, which we are a part of, and then said that Mr. Pinson threatened him.
And how were you able to observe or see what had transpired?
It's all captured on security video.
And do you see the person that you observed on the video brandishing a knife and showing the knife towards Mr. Moss in the courtroom today?
Yes.
If you need to stand up, please stand up, and can you identify the person that you saw?
He's at the table.
And could you please identify a piece of clothing and a facial feature of the defendant, please?
He has the dreads and he's in a blue uniform with a white t-shirt.
Thank you. Your Honor, let the record reflect that the officer has clearly identified the defendant sitting at the defense table in this case.
Okay, it's noted.
Thank you. And where did this incident occur?
It happened at the Fulton County Jail on the 6th floor, South Tower, zone between 200 and 100 in the corridor.
And what county is this jail in?
Fulton County.
Thank you. As for the shank that you mentioned, is that one of the objects that is provided by the jail itself?
It is not provided. It's something that is a makeshift. That's why it's called a man-made. It's something that inmates or devise in the jail.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
You know, you prefer I sit here or stand? How would you?
Either, make sure that, just that microphone, it's whichever's
Okay.
more comfortable. Just make sure Ms. Sims can hear you.
All right. Good afternoon, Lieutenant. How are you?
Doing well.
I want to talk first about the security footage. You said there was security footage that captured the incident.
Yes.
And where is the security footage located in regards to where the alleged incident happened?
It's in the jail.
Is it, okay, let me be more specific. Is it like from an aerial view? Is it from the side? Can you tell the court exactly where that camera footage is?
Well, there are different cameras that inside the zone, and then there's also in the hallway.
Okay. And the incident that was alleged to have been caught on the cameras, was this camera in the hallway or actually in the zone?
Both.
Okay. And how many individuals were in this area?
You have the maintenance man himself, he had a coworker, and then you also had an officer. Then you have inmates that are inside the zones itself.
And this alleged incident to have occurred, did it occur like within a cell? Can you be a little more specific?
No, it wasn't in the cell. It actually happened in the hallway of the between when they first come into onto the floor, and then when you go into the cell. I'm sorry, not the cell, but the zone.
Okay. And in this hallway area, how many inmates were there at that time?
Outside in the hallway, he was by himself.
Okay. And the maintenance man, you said he was like in a door area, or where exactly was the maintenance man?
You talking about the maintenance man when the incident happened?
Yes.
He was going back towards the exit door when it happened. He was standing because when he came on the floor, he came on with the lift. They use a lift to access different points inside the zone. So he was standing by the lift.
And this door that he was, I guess, attempting to go to, was that where my client was standing?
You talking about which door was he attempting to go to? You mean when he was trying to go into the zone or trying to leave?
Leave.
So when he was trying to leave, that's the exit door, which is a 903 door.
Okay. And is that where my client was standing?
No, he was standing at the doorway.
Okay. And so the doorway that he was standing, was this the doorway that the maintenance man came in through?
Well, there's two doorways. When you enter the zone,
Okay.
enter the floor, and then there's a door when you enter to the zone.
Okay. And you may not know exactly by now, but can you kind of give the court an approximation of how big this area is? Where?
You talking about the hallway itself?
Yes.
It may be as wide as from the stand to that wall.
Okay. So it's safe to say it's a pretty enclosed area?
The hallway?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And this shank that you testified that was on my client, was that shank ever recovered?
No, it wasn't recovered.
Okay. Did you watch this video?
I did.
Okay. And when you spoke with the maintenance man, how did he describe what the alleged weapon was?
A shank.
Okay. And this shank, is it seen on video?
Yes.
And can you describe how it looks? I guess from your point of view when you're watching the video.
When he first lifted up the shirt, all you saw was the heel or the handle part of it. Then he pulls it out again and he has it in his left hand and you don't see the entirety of it, but you still see part of it. And then the second time when he brandishes, you see the whole tank. It's silver or gray in color.
And can you see, what color was my client allegedly wearing?
The same uniform he has on now.
Okay. And what color, if you could tell, was the color of the handle of the shank?
It was a dark in color.
Okay. And when the maintenance man approached, you said that my client first approached the maintenance man?
Yes.
On this camera footage, can you hear any audio?
No.
So you can't tell what's said prior to anyone approaching anyone?
Correct.
And prior to my client and the maintenance man speaking, was the maintenance man talking to any other inmates?
I can't say specifically.
Okay. Does it appear that he was talking to somebody else?
Yeah, he was. Well, the officer was in the zone, and so there was some type of conversation between inmates and the maintenance man.
Okay, and from your perspective, did that conversation appear to be aggressive in any nature?
No.
Did it appear that anybody was arguing amongst each other?
No.
Okay, and during that time that the maintenance man and the other inmates were having a conversation, could you see what my client was doing?
When the maintenance man goes initially into the zone, which is zone 200, he's standing at what we call the red zone, which is at the front of the door.
Okay. And when the maintenance man comes in, does he pass my client initially?
He does.
Okay. And at that point, was there any conversation seen on video?
Not that I can tell.
Okay. Was there anything physical that happened between the maintenance man and my client when he first walks in?
No.
So as far as you know, there was anything aggressive in nature, no bumping, no touching,
No.
nothing. Okay. And approximately how long was that conversation between the maintenance man and the other inmates?
He initially goes in approximately around around 10, 11. And then he comes back out. So it's probably, he was in that zone approximately about 2 minutes.
And when my client initially approached, could you see whether or not the maintenance man first walked towards my client?
He was exiting the door. So he had to go pound to go out the door.
So where he was walking towards was where my client was standing?
Yes.
Okay. And approximately how many steps did my client take towards the maintenance man?
I'm gonna say probably between 6 and 8 steps.
And is there, so the path in which Mr. Penton was walking, is there a way for him to leave or is there only one way for him to leave?
Who talking about Mr. Pinson?
Yes.
He has to go, well, he can't leave.
No, I'm saying where he was walking towards, because he testified that he was walking towards the maintenance man.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is in that direction, is there another exit? Is there another place that he can leave from where he came in?
He has to exit the floor.
Okay, so can he exit the floor walking in the direction that he was walking?
It would be unauthorized, but yes.
Okay. And approximately how many times did my client allegedly bring out this shank?
Twice.
And when he brought it out, did he ever swing it?
He raised it up towards him the second time.
The first time, I want to talk about the first time, you said he raised up his shirt.
Mhm.
And you saw him on the video, it's seen him grabbing the shank.
When he initially pulls it up, he just pulls it up so he can, I guess, warn the maintenance man that he has something.
Okay.
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 Excuse me. Then I'm guessing there's some type of banter going on. He walks out and then he actually pulls it out of his shirt, going towards the maintenance man. The maintenance man's grabbed something to defend himself. Then he puts it back in and goes back to the door. He stands at that door. Another conversation goes on. Then he completely pulls it out again.
Okay. And when he pulled it out, is my client's arms raised in any way?
Yes, it is.
Does he swing the alleged shank in any way?
He doesn't swing it.
Okay. And approximately how long did it take from the alleged incident to, I guess, the first officer to arrive or the first to come to the scene?
The officer was already on the floor.
Okay.
But see, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. You go ahead.
No, but Mr. Penton goes back in the zone where he was supposed to. He actually exited the zone unauthorized. He's not supposed to come out that door. He came out that door without authorization to come out that door.
Okay. And so then how long did it take for, I guess, the first officer to make any contact with Mr. Penson?
Well, there was an officer already on the floor. So he goes back because the officers on the floor is talking to other inmates in that zone.
Okay.
And so he goes back in the zone where he was supposed to be.
Okay. And once he goes into that zone, at what point does an officer, I guess, have a conversation with him?
Not for sure at that point, but I didn't know anything that's happened until the maintenance man makes contact about the complaint of what transpired.
Okay. And on this footage, is the visual, is it clear from who's on the footage?
It is.
Okay. And as far as you were aware, there were no other inmates or there were no other shanks that were seen on the video.
That's correct.
And as of today, there was no shank that was recovered.
That's correct.
And outside of the maintenance man just saying it was a shank, he had no other description.
No, he didn't. No.
And this maintenance man, how long has he been coming, I guess, to the jail?
I don't know his history of his employment, but he's been there, I know, at least several years.
Okay. And if you've seen him on other occasions before?
Absolutely.
Okay. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right, anything else from the state?
Nothing else from the state, Your Honor.
Anything else for the lieutenant?
No, nothing else, Your Honor.
Thank you, LT. Have a good day off or a good week or vacation or,
Thank you.
all right, go ahead with argument.
Yeah. Your Honor, based off the testimony that we have, we do not believe that probable cause has been made. We heard that the only description that we have was a shank. There was no description from the maintenance man as to what it may have looked like, the size, how sharp it was. All we have is that it was a shank. That alleged weapon was never recovered from anyone, specifically, especially from my client, Mr. Penton, Your Honor. So at this point, there is no weapon that has been recovered. There's no weapon that the state can bring forth and say this was what the alleged weapon that was used. There was no swinging. I believe the testimony was that at first he sort of just raised up his shirt. Then the second time, I believe the testimony was that he brought it out. But there was no testimony that he swung it in any way, that there was any alleged attempt for Mr. Penton to attack the maintenance man with this weapon. There was walking, and I understand that Mr. Penton was in an unauthorized area, but from the direction he was walking, it could have been that he was trying to walk out. Again, even though it was unauthorized, there was not only one exit, there were multiple exits, Your Honor. And again, prior to that, there was no testimony of Mr. Penson and the maintenance men getting into any argument. There was no verbal altercation. There was nothing from the testimony that we have that would appear to have led to any sort of fight, whether that's verbal or physical, Judge. And so based on the testimony that we have thus far, Your Honor, we ask that no probable cause be found and that you dismissed the charges against Mr. Penson.
All right, what says the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Based on the officer's testimony or the lieutenant's testimony that we heard in court today, Your Honor, this was a shank that was brandished against Mr. Moss, and this is as a shank is a type of sharp object, a homemade sharp object that when used offensively against a person, it causes it can cause serious bodily injury. In this case, this shank was raised towards Mr. Moss. It was first brandished and then raised. There's no question that the elements are met, and we're asking Your Honor to find probable cause to as to both charges, Your Honor.
There's actually three.
I'm sorry, 3 charges.
All right, I found probable cause on all 3. He's in no bond status as of March the 4th. Yes, March the 4th. So we'll go ahead and address bond. And the 316 days has been including the time for the other case that he's here for. Well, one that was dismissed, and then there was a new case filed in April.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, Your
I think they must have cleared up the indictment or something. All right. Bostic number 9.
8 prior arrests, prior pistol under the age of 18 in 2021, a simple battery in 2020. Indictment 23 SC 187384, aggravated assault, firearm during cruelty and third, 2 counts assigned to Judge Whitaker. Nothing further.
Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, Mr. Penton is 20 years old. He is a lifelong resident of Atlanta. He actually lives at 6726 Terra Boulevard in Jonesboro. Prior to his arrest, he actually was working. He was working at Church's Chicken. He was a cashier. He lives with his mother. He does have 1 child that's 3.5. He was supporting both his child and both his mother, helping out with the bills in the home, given he's the only one that lives with her, Your Honor. Your Honor, I understand, obviously, that the court has found probable cause. We are asking that the court just impose or just order a reasonable amount so that Mr. Penton can be released and go back into supporting not only his mother, but his child. Judge, there's been no evidence that they know each other. So I don't think there is an issue of any type of intimidation of the witnesses. And again, I do understand that the allegations do appear dangerous in nature or violent in nature, Your Honor. However, given that he has been in for the time that he has been in, Judge, we would ask that any amount, just an amount that Mr. Penton and his family could pay, along with any conditions that the court would feel comfortable imposing, obviously with a no contact and any other condition, Judge. I think Mr. Penton would be more than amenable to whatever condition that the court feels necessary. We do not believe that a no bond at this juncture, Your Honor, is the appropriate, given that he does have a bond in position number 1 in his other case, Judge. So we are just asking for a reasonable number where he can get back out, go back to work, support both his mother and his 3-year-old child, Your Honor. Thank you.
Does he have a bond in the other one? Because I don't see a bond. I see something on 1 count, but it's ag assault, possession of firearm, and 2 counts of cruelty.
He has a 30,000 good bond in position 1. I don't have the case number in front of me.
Okay, on the other.
Yes,
okay.
yes, Your Honor.
I'm talking about the one in front of Judge Whitaker.
No, I do not know about that because I don't represent him in that one,
Okay.
Judge, so I'm not sure
right.
about that one.
All right, what says the state?
Yes, Your Honor. This was a violent offense, thankfully with no injuries. Therefore, the threat or danger to the victim community property remains very high. The chances of the defendant reoffending, given his prior history and given the fact that this defendant has had other violent offenses, also remains very high. Therefore, we're asking for no weapons, no drugs, no contact with the victim in this case as much as possible. I know that this was a jail incident, however, just in case. And we'll leave the bond amount to Your Honor's discretion.
Right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with Mr., just have the first initial, A Moss, Moss. You're gonna have, looking back at the rest of the charges, you've already got stay away from the child's mother and that child. So you have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment, although I'm sure she's here in the courtroom because she's making faces towards him. Which she's not supposed to be around him, nor he her. Ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment, schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working. And stay out of Fulton County, sir, unless you're here for court or to see your lawyer. 25,000, 20,000, and 20,000. 25, 20, and 20. And stand by. What's the status on the officer on position 1 since it's his client?
Your Honor, the officer is unresponsive at this point. I'm not sure if the officer has fallen asleep at this point or.
That's the officer who's been up.
I'm sorry?
Is that the officer that's been up?
Yes, Your
24
Honor.
hours? Go ahead.
Judge, I believe this was continued before, specifically this one. I believe it was in February. And the officer in that matter did not show up. I'm not sure if it was a no call, no show, and I don't want to misrepresent, but I do remember him not appearing, or if it's a female, she not appearing, Your Honor. So I would object to any more continuances, specifically to position 1, Your Honor. And based on that, we would ask that you dismiss the charges on position 1.
Let's see. I'm looking. Where's the? Oh yeah, I see on here that it was reset. And I'm looking for the reset notice. I don't.
Your Honor, based on the current circumstances, obviously, we're asking for a continuance so that the officer can be subpoenaed again.
So, so I don't. I mean, and I'm definitely taking because it says it on here, but it just says reset from 2/17. But I don't see any notes.
If
Like
I recall,
typically, there's a reset notice, and I don't see one in the file.
I do recall it being in front of Judge Drake.
I don't even. Yeah, and I don't even see where it was ever scheduled. It just says it's scheduled, and then there's nothing else that was filed after that. And there's usually like reset notices. And so have you reached out to the officer? I mean,
Yes, Your Honor, our investigator Pauls, reached out to the officer and spoke with him even this morning. But as stated before, the officer was properly subpoenaed, and we were expecting the officer to show up to court, but unfortunately, he's not here at the moment. We're asking for a continuance so that we can get the officer subpoenaed again.
I don't see. I mean, although I don't see, and I see that on here that it says it was reset from 2/17, but I really don't see any paperwork resetting it in Odyssey. You see it in Bria? I mean, there's nothing filed in there. So I'll go ahead and dismiss it for warrant of prosecution, since obviously on the calendar it was reset one time. Sir, that doesn't mean they can't indict you on this. Sometimes when they do that, it means they'll turn around and indict you on this. So the charges aren't going away, just means they can still indict you on it. So it's a good thing they've been dismissed, but they could be indicted on it and reinstated tomorrow. You know, and then they can also rearrest you if you've made bond. Okay. All right. Best of luck to you, sir.
Your Honor, that includes my matters. May I be excused?
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, detective, come on up. In fact,
And
well, I guess is Mr. Mohammed Lawamba's not here either.
Your Honor, just to make an announcement for position 2, it's the same exact officer.
Well, and the lawyer's not here.
There's another attorney sitting right there. I'm not sure if you can.
That's Mr. O. Are you, which case you're coming for you and Ms. Smith, right? Because I've got one Mohammed Lawamba. Which I think didn't show.
Tyler.
I think she's looking for another attorney.
Yeah, that's another one. So what about the officer on, since we got Mr. Olaf here, on Mr. Olaf's case, on position 3 and 4?
Your Honor, we do not have the officer present inside the court today. We're asking for a continuance on it. Yes, Your Honor.
That one of them I know was with South Fulton, the other one is Hernandez. Is that APD for number 3?
For number 3, Your Honor, yes, that's APD. Badge number 7523.
And that was a bond surrender on that one. All right, Mr. Olaf, you want to put something on the record really quick?
Is this the first time that they have not appeared?
Yes, position 3 had the pretrial bond surrender though, and well, I say it is. However, I don't know since there's no note on the calendar. I don't see anything filed in the case. So I will say from what I can tell that it is the first time.
Let me look in this file real quick if you don't mind. I don't think there's anything in here, but
Garrison. Thank you.
Looks like yes, for number 3, it's definitely, I think, the first time. And number 4. Yeah, it looks like it's the first time. That got on quick because the motion for prelim was just filed on May 5th.
Right.
So yeah, looks like it's the first time both of them were on.
all right, thank you, Judge.
And I think now though, if we reset it, we're setting it out to June.
Yes, Judge, June 8th.
And I know Mr. Colbert is on no bond because pretrial came off of it, and Mr. Darquez Dunn has $25,000 bond as of December. You want to hear
Right.
bond on both of them?
Please.
Okay, all
And-
right, we'll do
th-
this, do this case, then we'll get you up here and get you 2 bond
All right.
cases.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, detective,
On
you
which
raised,
person, Judge?
what's that?
Bond on which person, Colbert?
Well, yeah, we're calling them up later. On the one for Mr. Olaf and Ms. Smith. So it's 3 and 4. We're gonna do bond on those. All right, detective, you raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, state, spell your name to the court reporter, please.
Detective Melissa Soroka, that's Sroka.
All right, at 22 CP 215042. 146 days in jail without indictment. Ms. Beck,
Yes, Your Honor.
are you wanting to waive?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we got 1 possession, and then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which I guess is another possession, but anyway, so it's 10 counts total. All right, go ahead, Ms. Winfrey.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh, sorry, 22 CP 150442, Brian Garris. All right, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Thank you, Judge. Detective, where are you currently employed?
I work for the Roswell Police Department located in Fulton County, Georgia.
And how long have you been so employed?
I've been employed there since March of 2015.
And what division are you assigned to there?
Currently, I am a detective in the Criminal Investigations Division. I'm specifically assigned to a unit that focuses on internet crimes against children.
And what kind of cases does the Internet Crimes Against Children unit handle?
Mostly sexual exploitation of children. So that can be anything involving child sexual abuse material, commonly known as child pornography, online enticement of children, things of that nature.
And in your training and experience, let me ask you this, how long have you been in that particular unit?
So that unit was just established by our department recently, but I've been on the Georgia Bureau of Investigations Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force since June of 2019 officially. Prior to that, I helped out for about a year. So since 2018, I've been involved in this specific field.
Okay. And being a part of the Georgia, I guess, ICAC task force, is what
Yes.
it's called, is it handling the same types of cases that your unit at the Roswell Police Department handles?
Currently, yes.
And about how many internet crimes against children cases have you handled approximately since working in this field?
That I've particularly been involved in, I would say upwards of 50.
And are you post-certified?
Yes.
And have you been post-certified since July of 2022?
Yes.
And even as of April of 2023, are you still post-certified?
Yes.
I'm going to draw your attention to around September of last year, where you were assigned to investigate an internet crimes against children case as it relates to a Brian Garrison.
Yes, I was assigned to cyber tip.
Okay, can you explain how you got this assignment and tell the court what a cyber tip is?
Sure. So as a member of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, commonly known as ICAC, we are assigned cases from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, also referred to as NCMEC. So that's the National Clearinghouse for everything relating to the exploitation of children, particularly sexual crimes. They maintain and house all the data and all the electronic information. So what happens with a cyber tip is an electronic service provider, something such as Google, Yahoo, or it might be a social media application such as Facebook. They report content that they believe to be sexually exploitive of children. That report is sent to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, where all of the electronic data is cataloged and sort of disseminated. And then what they do is they determine where this cyber tip would originate in the state. So then that is sent to the state task force, which in our case would be the GBI. And then the GBI does the same thing. They go through that data and they dig down a little bit further, and then they localize that information to a jurisdiction. So in this case, it would be Roswell. So once they deem that that cyber tip originated from an electronic location in Roswell, they check and see if they have a task force member in that area, which for us, they do. So then that case is then forwarded to me for further investigation.
And based on those steps that you've outlined, is that what happened in the case with the defendant, Brian Garrison?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us when you got involved with this investigation.
So this particular investigation was assigned to me towards the end of August. They come in through an electronic dashboard. So they're assigned to us. And then my job is to go through that dashboard, sort of vet the information. And if I see an investigation there, I assign a case number and begin investigating locally.
And what was the cyber tip that you initially received in this case?
So this particular one that we're discussing is a cyber tip that was assigned to me that traced back to the subject, Brian Garrison. And upon review of the information, the other way that the cyber tips work is if there is more than one report of content, or sometimes if it's an automatic process, they have multiple files attached. And for the word, what they do is they call it a master file and then a child file. So there might be multiple cyber tips attached to one investigation, which in this case there were. And upon
there for a second. So are those investigations given a number?
Yes, so they have each individual cyber tip numbers, and that's the way that NCMEC tracks everything. So every time that there's a report from an electronic service provider, they assign it its own cyber tip number. So for instance, if there are multiple reports on the same subject or the same email account or perhaps the same user account, depending on what date they're reported, they either get the same cyber tip number, or if it's the next day, they get a new cyber tip number, and they try to actually attach them all together so that they can assign them at one time. But all of the data is stored under its own individual cyber tip number.
And so what happened in this case?
So in this case, I was assigned a cyber tip, which included multiple other cyber tip files as quote unquote child files of that master cyber tip. So upon review of that, I located not only all of the additional information relating that there were multiple cyber tips, which means multiple instances, multiple images and reports of potentially child sexual exploitative material, but also that I had a prior cyber tip, which also had multiple cyber tips attached to that, involving the same subject at the same location, involving the same type of content.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the subject. So when the cyber tip came to you, does it identify a subject?
Yes.
And in this case, what subject or who was the subject that was identified in the tip?
So the electronic service provider for this cyber tip was Google. So in this instance, we're talking about a Google account. So for Google, as an electronic service provider, they provide everything related to that specific Google account. So everything that is attached to that Google account when the user creates it. So it could be a username, it could be a cell phone, IP addresses, if they attach methods of payment, addresses, backup emails, other phone numbers, things like that. The other thing about Google is they do what's known as a two-step verification. So when they attach a cell phone number, they actually verify and provide you that information that they verified that cell phone number as attached to the user in that two-step verification progress.
And was that done in this case?
That was done in this case.
And it was Google that was the service provider that was identified in the NCMEC tip in this case.
Correct.
All right. And so in that NCMEC tip, did it identify Brian Garrison as the suspect? Did it give his date of birth?
Yes. So in this particular, and I'm just going to refer to my paperwork here. So in this particular cyber tip, it provided his name, It provided a phone number, which showed the two-step verification, the date and time that Google verified that. And they also provided a date of birth and then the email address, which again also showed a two-step verification. They also provided an IP address that was used for a login.
And what was that IP address? Can you give the numbers to the IP address?
Sure. So the IP address was 50.217.47.194.
Okay, go ahead.
So when the cyber tip is received by NCMEC, they're taking all of this electronic data and they're trying to mine it down to, okay, which state has jurisdiction over this. So when the GBI gets it, they actually serve legal service on that electronic service data to narrow that down further. So that's what was done for this IP address, which then comes back with additional information to narrow down the subject and the user.
And who was that service provider that subpoena went to in this?
So this one went to Comcast Cable, and that was done by the GBI. They executed a court order for the subscriber records, which came back to sort of like a long stay shared living motel in Roswell.
And can you give the name of that long stay motel?
Sure, it operates under the business name of Studio 6. The corporate name is Hare Krishna Roswell Hotel LLC.
And where is that located?
9955 Old Dogwood Road in Roswell, Georgia, Fulton County.
Thank you. And so what happened after you have now gotten this information? You now have the IP address that has been identified to be the service provider of Comcast. Now you're reviewing the cyber tip. What steps do you take?
So for this particular investigation, I was able to recall very clearly the prior cyber tip that I had received. Again, because it came back to that Studio 6 shared living location. And in reference to that prior cyber tip investigation, again, it had provided user information for the same Brian Garrison, cell phone and all of that. And the electronic service provider in that case was also Google. And at that time, I had done what is known as a knock and talk. So typically with cyber tips, depending on the content and the evaluation of the investigation, we're either executing a search warrant to locate additional contraband and material for the suspected offender, or we're at least making contact at the residence and letting them, know, hey, someone has accessed your internet and this is what's happened. So in this case, I had gone out to Studio 6 and spoken with the general manager at that time and verified occupancy for the Brian Garrison subject, that he was in fact a tenant at that location, and that management did confirm that he was given access to their Wi-Fi, which again, it is a shared Wi-Fi, but it is provided to tenants only.
And can you tell me when did you go out there and do that knock and talk?
That was done in April of 2022 relating to the earlier cyber tip investigation, which after documenting that, I had closed that one out. And then we were now months later assigned this one that we're in discussion of today. So now having that information and the fact that I was the one that had gone out there, I again contacted Studio 6 and verified that Brian Garrison was in fact still a tenant in the same room at that location, and that none of their Wi-Fi information had changed.
Did you identify the room that he was staying in?
Yes, room 169.
Okay.
And I also spoke with our special investigations section, and one of the detectives there currently had Mr. Garrison as a subject of one of their investigations. So they were performing surveillance and their own separate unrelated investigation. So we sort of combined resources in that, and then again, did some surveillance to verify that he was in fact an occupant of that room and that he was still there at that location.
And when was this time?
They had ongoing surveillance. So it was done prior to the execution of the search warrant, which you'll have to forgive me 1 second. I'm going to look for the exact date here. Okay, so this was done in early 2023. So now it's been verified that he was still there. And according to the notes from the special investigation section, they had ongoing surveillance from the end of 2022, and they were actually working a narcotics investigation.
Okay.
So they had sort of an ongoing involvement and surveillance on him separately.
Well, let's talk about the actual depictions in the actual cyber tips that you received, so we can understand how that works. In this particular case with Mr. Garrison, the tips that were sent to you to review, did they contain what's called child sexual abuse material?
Yes, also known as child pornography or perhaps CSAM for acronyms. But this is content that has been flagged. Typically with your electronic service providers, they have an automatic flagging process, and then they also have what's a manual flagging process. So that's an actual person who has to go through everything in the account and verify that it is potentially exploitive of children. So in that classification, it is someone that is either clearly or suspected to be a minor engaged in clear acts of sexual, either lascivious display of their genitalia or actual sexual acts or something exploitive of them.
And for purposes of the sexual exploitation of a minor and those laws, that minor will be under 18, is that right?
Correct.
All right. And so in this case, what was depicted in the cyber tips that you received?
So in the cyber tip that was depicted, there were numerous files. I detailed them all in my warrant here, but they were all of the same typical classification. So there was a range of what we would say pubescent male all the way up to what could be considered a young 18. And they were all either lascivious display of their genitalia or lascivious child erotica type material. And then they were actually engaging in various sexual acts.
What were some of those sexual acts?
There's masturbatory acts, there's anal sex, oral sex.
Okay. And once you review that, again, you were familiar with this particular place and this particular person from a previous cyber tip. What steps did you take when you got the next cyber tip?
So as part of my job, I have to review all of the content that is provided by the electronic service provider, which can be upwards of sometimes hundreds of files. So I have to go through each of those and detail them and then determine and verify that in fact they are what they are suspected to be, which is sexually exploitative of children. So once that is done, I spoke with our special investigations section and we combined our probable cause to execute a residential search warrant on the room at the Studio 6 location. The purpose for their investigation was to locate items related to narcotics. Purpose for mine was to look for items for the electronic side for content relating to this investigation of child sex abuse material.
And so when was that search warrant executed?
So that search warrant, the date off the top of my head, I apologize. Oh, wait, actually I do. Okay, so it was on November 9th of 2022.
All right. And were you present for the execution of that search warrant?
I was not. That was conducted by members of our special investigations section.
Okay. And was that execution of the search warrant captured on body camera?
Yes.
Okay. And had you opportunity to review that body camera?
I have not reviewed that particular body camera. I have spoken with several of the officers, including the on-scene sergeant, who has assisted me on every residential search warrant that I have done for internet crimes against children. And we relayed what was located in the room, as well as the evidence that they did seize.
Okay. And as it relates to this case, what was seized?
So electronic devices were seized, and the one that is of particular interest is a black Samsung cell phone. It was found to be in the possession of Brian Garrison at the time of the execution of the search warrant. The phone number on the cell phone was also the same that was included on the Google electronic service provider in the cyber tip. And upon obtaining a search warrant for said cell phone and review of it, I was able to find account information on that cell phone that tied back to Brian Garrison as well. So things like your email accounts, things that show that this is your cell phone per se.
And so what you're saying is that the identifying information that was provided on the cyber tip matched the information that's on the cell phone that was obtained pursuant to the search warrant.
Correct. So Google provided the information that said this user at this address is using this Wi-Fi with this cell phone number to upload and view child exploitative material. And upon execution of a search warrant, that same subject was found in that room at that location with access to that Wi-Fi with the same devices provided by Google that matched the phone number and also had the ability to gain access to Wi-Fi. And then upon review had content matching that as provided in the cyber tip, not only in its type of content, meaning the age range and the sexual acts and things that were being done, but also one of the actual images was from the same series.
And so what you're saying is there is evidence that there was an upload. Is that correct? From the-
Objection, Your Honor, leading.
Rephrase.
Based on the cyber tip, did it describe how the information was shared or not shared?
Yes, so cyber tips reference that the information is uploaded. And that can be done whether they're saving it to their Google Drive account, they're sending it to another user from one email to another, some method.
Okay. You took out 10 warrants in this case
Correct.
for possession of child sexual abuse material. And I want to go through what you have, what you swore. As to, can you talk about why did you take out the warrants as to each count? Specifically what was found on the phone of the defendant.
So on the cell phone that we seized during the search warrants, there were over 50 files of material that, you know, depicted young males engaged in a variety of sexual acts. So as it pertains to Georgia law, there are specifications for how to charge for child pornography. You have to be able to clearly state that it is a juvenile engaged in sexual acts. So I charge based on the ones that I can say are not in adults. So upon review of the first cell phone, there was only one file out of the upwards of 50 that I viewed that I was able to say, this is not an adult. The other ones are what we deem in the ICAC world age questionable, where we can't say for sure. And that's whether it's relating to parts of the body that are shown, or if cropping going on or things like that, where you can't see their head or other identifiable parts. So that was why there was initially one charge. And the subsequent,
I'm sorry, what was that one charge?
and that was for the possession of child pornography. And that was for the video. I can describe it if you want me to.
Please.
So it's I described it as a nude male teenager, not 18. I estimated him at 14 to 16 years old, pulls down his pants and turns around to show his anal area. He sits down and masturbates for the camera.
And you talk about estimating age, and how are you able to estimate the age?
So based on my training, knowledge, and experience, this is done looking at the content, taking a view of whether or not they've hit puberty, and then taking those standards of puberty, whether or not there's pubic hair, the development of their actual body parts. You can use size reference for body and things like that. So if they have a developed torso, the development of acne and things like that, whether or not there's tattoos present, other things in the room, or their facial features or characteristics that would display their age.
Okay. And so that was for the first warrant that you swore. What about the subsequent warrants that were done?
So after, based on that, I did take out the one arrest warrant, and Mr. Garrison was subsequently arrested on that. So that was in December of 2022. And at the time of his arrest, he had an additional cell phone in his possession. And due to the nature of this investigation and the arrest warrant, that cell phone was seized. I then applied for a search warrant for that new cell phone. And a forensic download was completed of that.
Let me stop you right there. Were you present for the arrest of the defendant in this?
I was not. That was also done by the Special Investigations section.
Okay, but you swore the warrants in the case.
Correct.
Okay. And in swearing the warrants, did you have to take a look at the driver's license photos of the defendant to identify the defendant and swearing?
Yes, we have a variety of law enforcement software as well as open source material to where we verify the identification of an individual.
And did you do that?
Yes.
Okay. Let's talk about that second warrant. I'm sorry that you were talking about the second cell phone
Mhm.
and the additional items that were found on the phone.
So I reviewed, after obtaining the search warrant for the second cell phone that was seized during the time of his arrest, I reviewed that, and I found, again, very similar material to all of the prior cyber tips. And in fact, the same type of content that I executed the arrest warrant on. So when I'm saying the same type of content, I'm talking about category of the type of interest. So the same age range, the same sort of characteristics. So if they're particularly interested in white males, et cetera. So these were, again, teenaged males all involved in a variety of sexual acts. And the files of interest, there were different ones, but there was also one that included other scenes, which were the same exact child and act as that depicted on the original cell phone content located.
And were these video files or still photos?
There were both, but the ones that I viewed and the subsequent charges were brought in were video files.
And then these video files, did you name them in your?
So I listed them in each of the warrants because I want to specify what each charge is. The names actually came from the files themselves. A lot of times this type of content is given names so that when they're exchanging and sharing it, it's kind of named. That's something particular to the world of child exploitative material. But things like Blue-Eyed Blonde with the 6 Psycho shirts, when in fact the boy in the video is a blue-eyed blonde wearing a 6 Psycho shirt who happens to be performing a sexual act.
And what was the sexual act in that particular video?
In that particular one, the juvenile male, he's what I believe to be non-18. I estimated him at 14 to 16, pulls down his pants, turns around to show his anal area. He also sits down and masturbates for the camera.
Okay. And then did you take out another warrant in this case as it relates to a German flower video?
Oh, yes, the German flower video. So that video depicted multiple males, 4 different males. I estimated them again to be 14 to 16 years old. They're speaking a foreign language that I believe to be German. There's sort of music playing in the background. It's a 46-minute long video. So it's basically splicing together these males interacting as they're nude. They're holding a bouquet of flowers. They're kissing and fondling each other and ultimately performing different sexual acts upon each other.
And what were those sexual acts?
So they're masturbating, they're giggling and performing oral sex on each other. They're sort of rolling around on the floor in a wrestling type activities and things like that.
Okay. You also swore warrant for a sucking toe video. What was the nature of that video?
Oh, this is the 17-minute video depicting a teenage male, approximately 15 to 17 years old. He's dressed like a high school kid in what appears to be a bathroom. He strips for the camera and masturbates, and then he performs other acts such as sucking on his own toes.
Okay. And was there, as you would describe in the statute, a lewd exhibition of his genitals in that?
Oh, very much so, yes.
All right. And then you swore another warrant that entitled bathroom masturbation video. Can you distinguish that? Your warrant is item 4.
Oh, thank you. Okay, that's one of those. So this is a 2-minute and 43-second long video with a teenaged male juvenile, approximately 15 to 17 years old, masturbating in what appears to be a bathroom while music plays in the background.
Okay. And also, will this be something that where the genitals were
Very much
exhibited?
so, yes.
Okay. You swore another warrant, also a masturbation video, your item 5. What's the nature of that video?
So that one is a 19-minute and 37-second long video, which is a teenage male, approximately 15 to 17 years old, also masturbating to the camera. And again, lewd and lascivious display of the genitalia would be present.
All right. There's another video that you swore that was called video game masturbation. What was the nature of that video?
That's an 8-minute and 58-second long video showing a teenage male, approximately 14 to 16 years old, masturbating while he wears an open black robe and he holds a game remote, such as one of those for like a video game system. So a lot of times in this environment, the children are communicating with somebody online. It may be that that person is actually telling them what to do, and they might be performing for that person. Based on his mannerisms, I believe that he is communicating with somebody while he's performing these sexual acts.
You also swore a video, warrant for video stream masturbation, your item 7 video. What's the nature of that one?
Okay. So this one is an 11-minute and 44-second length video, which is a teenage male, approximately 15 to 17 years old. He strips for the camera via what's a video stream, so like a live video feed. And he masturbates and graphically displays his anus and his butt region before he blows a kiss to the camera.
You also swore a warrant and that was entitled Omega Boys, OMEGLE. What's the nature of that video?
So Omegle.com is a known site for the exchange of child sexual abuse material. It's sort of one of those anonymizing sites, so it's just known for that. This video is 27 minutes and 32 seconds long, featuring 2 teenage males that lie in bed together. They're estimated to be between 14 and 16 years old. They giggle and interact each other while they're chatting with somebody again on another device. And then they masturbate each other after they strip off their clothes.
And then you swore a warrant entitled Golden Boys, your item 9 or item 7.
Right, labeled Golden Boys number 7. So that's a 28-minute and 4-second long video. This is 2 teenage males, approximately 13 to 16 years old. They're lying in bed nude together. It's filmed kind of like one of those romance type movies. So again, it's got lots of different angles, some music playing in the background, sort of gives it a romantic element, if you will. They rub and stroke each other. They pose each other. There's a mirror. There's some long, slow close-ups of the genitalia and of their bodies. And they each perform and submit to oral sex. So then there's other spliced images into it, which include some adult males and other suspected teen males engaging in a variety of intimate acts such as touching, kissing, and sex.
And in swearing these warrants, about how many video files or images did you view from the cell phone that was obtained from the defendant in this case?
Over 50.
And the 10 are the ones that you swore warrants for that.
Yes, there were over 50 on the first cell phone. And then this one had 25 total video files. And then out of those, the ones that I swore warrants on are the ones where I believe them to be clearly depictive of a minor engaging in sexual acts.
And were those video files stored on the phone?
Everything was located on the phone, yes.
And after you took out the warrants, was there any other actions that you took in this case?
So all of that information is submitted for child victim identification. So that information will actually have to go to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And what happens is we have to create a whole new copy of everything. And then that is sent in a secure fashion to them with documentation of our investigation. And what they do is they take the content that is found and then using electronic and other methods that they have, they verify if it's part of what's called a known series or known identified victims. If it's not an identified victim, then they go ahead and they actually create its own sort of series for that victim. And then the ones that are identified, I provided information relating to that so I can reach out to those investigators.
Okay. From the search warrant of the residence, was there anything taken outside of the cell phone as it relates to this case?
No.
And having viewed the driver's license image and of those matters, or strike that, having viewed the driver's license of the defendant and having to swear the warrants for this case, could you identify the defendant in the courtroom today of the person that we're here for as it relates to your investigation in this case?
You can stand it.
Okay. Yes, he appears to be seated at the defense table wearing the blue top with the white long sleeve underneath.
Your Honor, I would like the record to reflect that Detective Soroka has identified the defendant in this case.
All right, record so reflects.
Nothing further.
Cross?
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective.
Hi.
Okay, so this is, all of the acronyms were new to me, so I apologize if I have. you
No, you're
repeat
totally
stuff.
fine.
Okay, so let's start with the ICAC.
ICAC Task Force,
Okay, and what does that stand for? I'm sorry.
Internet Crimes Against Children.
And is that like a nationwide thing?
Yes, so for us here in the US, that is a nationwide thing, and basically it's housed by each state governing agency. So for us, it would be the GBI.
Okay.
That's their sponsor.
And that's separate from NCMEC?
NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Yes. So National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, you might be familiar with that with missingkids.org. They're the ones that are known for putting out all the missing children posters and things like that. They're the clearinghouse for everything as it relates to endangerment of children, really, but particularly missing and endangered kids and the sexual exploitation of children.
So I just want to make sure I have the process
Yeah,
correctly.
absolutely.
So a server like Google would report it to NCMEC, is that what you called it?
Okay, so an electronic service provider. So it could be anybody. It could be Google. It's a very common one. Could be Facebook. It could be Snapchat. It could be, Omegle is one. Okay. So what happens is they have something that either they notice or someone else can report. So if you're on TikTok and you know how they have that report or flag button, if you were to do that and then TikTok looks at it and says, "Ooh, you're right. That does look like child sexual abuse material." They do what's called a cyber tip report, and that is sent to National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, also known as NCMEC. And they're the ones that house all of that. So then they go through, they compile all of the data sent from the electronic service provider. And at that point, so whoever it is, Google, TikTok, whomever reports it, the minute that there is a report done, they pull everything. They actually shut down the account. They pull everything that they have from that account and they copy it and they forward it over, including the actual content to NCMEC, who then catalogs and data mines it, for lack of a more complicated term. That's really what they're doing. And they've got this whole network of everything. So they can actually see, have we ever had a report before with this user, with this website, with this phone number, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They compile all of that data. And then it sort of goes through the next process, which is to determine which state task force is going to handle it. And then the state narrows it down to a local jurisdiction. If there is no local jurisdiction, so say if I wasn't in Roswell, then the state GBI, they would handle the investigation.
I see. Thank you so much for
Yeah, no problem.
that.
I'm a teacher too. It's okay.
When you say they pull everything from the account, you mean like just literally anything that's ever been
Everything
associated
that
with
Google, everything that Google or the electronic service provider has. So when you create an account, all of the information that you provide to them and whatever they store per their policy. So if you look at each, say Google versus Yahoo versus TikTok, they all have those privacy notices. This is the type of information that we ask of you. This is what we store. And they all have different retention policies, but everything that they have relating to that account and maybe whatever the account has ever done is forwarded over.
Okay. You said that someone could make a report. If I saw it, I could make a report, but also it can get automatically flagged. How does that work?
So every electronic service provider they have programs. They're built by people smarter than me. They work at like MIT and places like that, that scan for, so it's called hash file DNA. So every file image, so whether that's a video or an image, anything you do, it has what's called like hash value. Okay. That's like the file electronic DNA. So it's kind of like those little electronic bits and pieces. So it's specific to that individual file. Okay. So with this type of material, because it is illegal and it is shared in secret, NCMEC keeps a catalog of that hash file DNA. So we have what's called known series. There's a lot of them that are famous. So unfortunately, what they do is they match up the content and see if it is part of a known series. Does it have what's called a hash value match? Okay, so now we know, okay, this is already verified child sexual abuse material. And if so, is it linked to a particular site, et cetera? If not, that information is all included in the cyber tip that I get.
You just said if it's linked to a particular site. So does that mean that it's run against other sites as well?
So their programs, there are a couple different ones. They all run in different ways, but what they're basically looking for is known quantities. Is this known material and where is it being circulated? Whether it's the dark web, have we seen it before with other, sites? So say something like Omegle, all of that information.
You mentioned Omegle.
Mhm.
Why is that like such a big website for you in particular in your field?
It's just known for one that is people use it because it's anonymous and it's known to exchange child sexual abuse material. Just like, Facebook is a social networking app, that's what it's known for. TikTok's known for the short Insta videos. It's just what it's known for.
Okay. Does Omegle mine for this, or do they flag for this kind of stuff? Okay.
Every electronic service provider does. Again, they're responsible for their own policies and how that is handled. It's dependent upon each one. But so for instance, Google, they have an electronic flagging system. So what happens if something is flagged by one of these programs, it gets pulled and the account is then manually reviewed. Yahoo is very similar in that manner.
And by manually reviewed, you mean someone at Google would go through it and be like, whoa, that's not
Some
great, or-
unfortunate person like myself has to go
Okay.
through every single thing and catalog it. Yes.
And then it would get sent to,
All of that is included to NCMEC. Yeah, all of the information that relates to that particular incident.
for the IP address, again, I'm just not a tech person, so
No, you're fine.
how does that work? Is that like a fingerprint for a computer or some kind of technology?
So what it is it's an access point. So every time that you log on to the internet, you're using an IP address, right? So you're either using what's a dynamic. So if you use your cell phone, it's a dynamic. So your cell phone provider is giving you a temporary IP address so that you can hop on to the Wi-Fi network. If you're at your house and it starts with a 10 dot, it's what's known as a static, meaning that one is assigned to you and or a business. So every time you're logging on to that one at your house, it's known it's assigned to you. You're going to come back as a specific subscriber.
So if I had a friend over at my house, how would that show up? If they just showed up and I shared the Wi-Fi?
If you shared the Wi-Fi with them, they would be on your Wi-Fi and you'd be responsible electronically for anything they did on your Wi-Fi.
Oh, so I know I'm like never inviting anyone over.
Tip, don't give your Wi-Fi passcode out to anyone.
Never again.
It's going through it in her mind. Who?
You should, yeah. Because that's how search warrants. So like, for instance, when I spoke earlier and I said we might either do a residential search warrant or we might do what's called a knock and talk. So if I have evidence that it looks like this might have been a guest user at someone's house per se, I would probably lean towards a knock and talk where I say, hey, on this date, such and such a time, do you have a party or whatever? And then they say, oh my God, yeah, it was my kid's graduation. We had everybody over. And it's like, okay, do you have a password on your Wi-Fi? And then somebody says, yeah, but we have it on this little post-it right on the fridge. Anybody can log on to it. Okay. Do you know anybody that uses the site Chatterbait? No, let's talk about it. And then we kind of go through what it is. So if you're giving somebody the password to your Wi-Fi and they're logging onto it, yes, they could be using your Wi-Fi to upload, download, exchange illegal contraband, not just child sexual abuse material.
Okay, so the IP address is just associated with that Wi-Fi then?
Yes, it's the
Okay.
internet access
Gotcha.
is how you're thinking of it. It's how they got onto the web. So it's how his phone connected to Google.
And that
for
Wi-Fi
instance.
was connected to the long-term,
Basically Studio 6. Yes.
okay,
That is their Wi-Fi that they maintain and they provide, they pay for, and the subscriber information comes back to them.
Okay.
And then they give that information out to their guests.
you also mentioned something called a dashboard. I didn't understand what that was.
Oh, sure. So that's just how I'm assigned the cases so that I can keep track of them. So all of the work that I do for the task force is separate out of what I do for the police department. So it's you can only have access to that dashboard when you're a member of the task force. So that's where all of the information is stored. It's a secure thing so that's where all of the content and everything is stored. So it's not like just anybody can log on and say, oh, I saw this cyber tip from such and such.
What happened with the initial cyber tip that you received regarding Mr. Garrison?
That one was closed out as a knock and talk. So that was when I went and verified that he was in fact at the Studio 6. He did have access to the Wi-Fi there. And he was not there at the time when I went and met with general management. And I think we went 2 or 3 more times. He was never there. So I didn't actually make contact with him.
Okay, and you said that he resided in room
169.
169. Did anyone else live in that room?
I believe he had a male companion with him.
Okay.
That was information that I found out from the special investigations section when they were doing their surveillance.
How many rooms total are at the Studio 6?
Off the top of my head, 300, give or take.
Okay, That's quite a few. And they all had access to the Wi-Fi.
In theory, they have to be given it by management. I didn't go room to room and say, did this person? But when I spoke with the general manager, Charles Hurd, he did confirm that yes, Mr. Garrison had access.
When you first served the search warrant, you confiscated, you said technology. What all was taken at that time?
That was turned over to me was the cell phone. I would have to review if they took anything else, but the only thing that I actually was handed by them was a cell phone, and that's what I obtained a search warrant for.
And then when they went back, he had another cell phone on his person.
Right. So based on a review of that cell phone that was seized during the search warrants, the arrest warrant was issued. And then when they went and arrested him, he had a new cell phone on him. So that was seized and then placed into evidence. And then once I obtained a search warrant for it, that's when the next examination of that and then the additional charges.
Okay. The first bit of technology, I'm sorry, the first cell phone, was that found on his person at that time?
Yes.
You. You said, I'm going to start getting into the actual content. You said a pubescent male and young 18. What does young 18 mean?
So young 18 is basically when I was referring to age questionable, like where you're like, are they or are they not 18? And you're just not entirely sure.
And what do you do in that situation?
Unfortunately, I don't charge on that.
Okay.
If I don't believe that they're of that age of a juvenile, then I'm not going to take a charge out on that.
What are the steps that you take to estimate someone's age, especially when it's once you hit puberty, post-puberty, how do you estimate?
Right. So a lot of that is taken into, how do they look? Things like their body size in relation to, say torso length, or a lot of times you can look at actually their hands and feet and things like that. So it's sort of, it's not an exact science because I'm not a doctor, of course. But estimation in relation to, if they've hit puberty, what size should they be and things of that.
Is there any, I don't know what this, like, is there any manual?
No,
Okay,
no,
that would be a weird manual.
no. It's based on my training, knowledge and experience.
And how many years did you say?
On that I've been helping with the ICAC task force. I've been on the task force since 2019 officially.
Thank you.
Welcome.
When he was arrested, was there anyone else in the room?
I believe the male occupant was there, but I would have to review.
Was he arrested?
Not to my knowledge.
Was Mr. Garrison's name the only one on the rental agreement?
I don't know for sure.
Would that have been something that you looked into?
I believe it would have been, but I don't have it in front of me, so I can't answer that definitively.
How many times prior to his arrest did you speak with Mr. Garrison?
Never.
He was never there, correct?
Correct.
3 attempts?
That's my standard, yes.
Do you cross-reference the cyber tips or the photos or videos with like any movies or any known legal movies?
So I can say that of all of the content that I viewed, I've never seen any of it. None of it is of legal tender. So it's not something that in my opinion, the general public should have access to.
I'm just gonna have to ask you to explain why.
Because they all appear to be children engaging in sexual acts of a graphic nature and lascivious, disgusting.
Is there a subgroup of pornography, legal pornography, that tailors to people who are interested in under 18 or around that age?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
It goes to the age. there's a lot of ability to alter movies or pictures now with like green screens or just any kind of technology that I don't even know about. That would make it possible that a legal person over the age of 18 could be portrayed as someone younger for a certain crowd.
Well, I think the appropriate question would be just that about this case, but just the general question, I think is.
Yeah, if you could focus it on this case to rephrase it.
How do you know that the people or some of the subjects in the videos were not 18 years old and it wasn't altered?
None of the content that I viewed based on its, we'll say technical. So you know, like when you put in a video on VHS and it's kind of staticky and it looks, technology has improved a lot. So a lot of this content is grainy and lower quality filming, or foreign in its nature. You can also tell by backgrounds and things like that, it might be dated. This might be in relation to what the children are wearing or the locations that they're being filmed in or the things that they're doing or the props that they might have. So there's sort of a variety of things, but everything that I viewed, none of it appeared to be of newer technology that could have been AI or modified. And in relation to what you might be referring to is something known as child erotica, might be what you're searching for. And that's a very specific classification. That's not children that are engaging in graphic sexual acts with each other, and there's not lewd, lascivious display of the genitalia. Child erotica is a 4-year-old standing on the beach who's undeveloped and is innocently standing there, might have their legs crossed and they're posing with a beach ball. That might be child erotica, where it's not necessarily sexual in nature. All of the content that I personally viewed is that of pornography. It is designed to sexually arouse a person.
Okay. You said none appeared to be newer material.
Mhm.
So out of the 10 charges, all of it appeared to be, how old would you guess?
I'll be generous and say maybe the 90s. Some of it appeared to be quite old.
Okay.
Some of the ones where I would say might have been newer, might have been the kid with the video game system. But again, even that doesn't appear, to be super, super new.
Were any of these pictures, photographs, videos, did any of them have the hash value?
Yes, they all do.
Okay, so they're all known to.
They're not all known. What happens, part of that is, so NCMEC is the one that has the catalog to that. So that's all included in the cyber tip. So when I send it off for child victim identification, they'll match up any of those. But typically the ones that are known that they can provide me information on, they will.
Okay, did any of them have?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so this was all newer.
Unidentified, yeah, unidentified is the proper terminology. It's not necessarily linked. It's actually very hard to identify a lot of these children victims.
Okay, thank you so much. No further questions.
Anything else from the state?
Yes, Sean, briefly. Detective Soroka, you mentioned that there's an IP address that was associated with the defendant in this case.
The one that returned to the Studio 6.
Okay, could that IP address be something that is associated with someone else?
Not according to the records. That is the one that is maintained and paid for by that particular business, and it is associated with that address. And when I spoke with them, I verified, in fact, that that was their account holder and information.
Okay, and when we talk about, the defense talk about in cross-examination there being someone else in the room. Could these video files or cyber tips be associated with someone else besides Mr. Garrison?
So according to the cyber tip, the user provided his name, his date of birth. He verified that information on his account with not only the cell phone that he had in his possession that was registered to him, but also with his email address, also associated and verified to him, that was later subsequently found on his person, and to have his personal information on it, along with the content matching that in the cyber tip. So to me, no.
Okay, and so that cyber tip actually lists out all of that, the identifying information.
Correct.
All right, and that's all I have.
Anything else, Ms. Beck?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, anything else for the detective?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, detective. Stay safe. Thank you for the
Thank you.
educational.
Anytime you want, Judge.
Informative. All right. All right, go ahead with the argument.
We'll submit on the evidence, Your Honor.
All right, then I'll file probable cause on all 10 counts. Right now, there's $180,000 good bond as of April the 18th. I'm sorry, the state, you want to add anything, right? You're,
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
I know he has the bond.
all right. Plastic.
Second, let me get into it. Okay, 12 prior arrests, 4 misdemeanors, most of them are theft cases. Hold in Jonesboro for probation violation. Convictions are theft by taking, theft by shoplifting, it's nothing further.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Beck.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Garrison is 46 years old. He's lived here for the last 35 years. He also has a brother that stays in the area. The address that is on file on Old Dogwood Road is still a good address for him, and he lives there with his partner. He attended 2 years of college at Middle Georgia and Chattahoochee Tech. Prior to his arrest, he was selling clothes on Poshmark and he was making a few $100s a month doing that. We are asking for bond not to exceed $150,000, Your Honor.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Winfrey.
Your Honor, we argue that the bond that's already in place is sufficient. We ask it not be modified. We do ask that he not be allowed to go back to the incident location, that hotel, and reside there. That is where the detective testified in the preliminary hearing that they've gone to a few times regarding criminal activity with this defendant. So we'd ask he not be allowed to go back there.
Do you have another place that he can go live?
Yes, Your Honor, and I could update the address if that is what Your Honor would like.
Okay, it's in Fulton County.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. All right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no internet access, no social media, no further contact with anyone under the age of 18. You have to provide the address upon release or Ms. Beck will do it. You have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, place of employment, proof of employment, and the exact location and schedule that you'll be working. You also have to give that to Ms. Beck and the ankle monitoring company. You know, social media. Is there any other statutory requirements?
I think you said no minors, Your Honor.
No internet?
No sexually explicit material.
Yes, no sexual explicit materials. I think it's also, isn't it supposed to be like no pictures of minors?
Yes.
I was trying to look it up.
Let me.
Let's see.
10,300
10,300.
Old Alabama connector.
I don't have my terms of use with me.
I think it's no pictures of minor, explicit, non-explicit.
Oh, my handwriting sucks.
And if there are any holds, you have 48 hours to have that ankle monitor placed on your ankle. So you'll stay away from that address. Sorry, kind of trying to open 3 or 4 windows at once.
Do you need the address, Your Honor?
Yeah, Dogwood.
It's 9955 Old Dogwood Road in Roswell.
Okay, so stay away from 9955 Old Dogwood Road in Roswell, Georgia, but you can return one time to pick up your belongings. I mean, if you live there, you'll have to go there, or your partner can go there and pick up your belongings. Please do it. Sorry, I'm pulling up my bond order. $100,000 count one and 15,000 for each other count. 15,000 each other count. Best of luck to you, sir.
I believe that raised it, Your Honor.
It did. After I heard the testimony, I'm raising it. Which I'm allowed to do with my discretion. Wasn't just the bond hearing I did before. Best of luck to you, sir.
Your Honor, that concludes my business with the court. May I be excused?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
And this stuff, thank you, Detective.
Judge Bannon, I'm sorry, you did raise it to 15K, correct? And 100K?
100,000 count one and then 15,000 on
Okay,
to the other counts.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. And you can put on there after hearing testimony. I felt it was in the court's discretion to raise his bond.
Okay,
But detective, what about this, like internet sharing? Not that I've ever had anybody,
We'll give your Wi-Fi to anybody.
but let's say that. Yeah, but- Come on. So I know, but let me ask you a question. So
It's horrible.
if you do it though, if, you know, Ms. Beck, so we're all in here on the county Wi-Fi. So how do they know who it is? Because the county has, you know, that public Wi-Fi. So how do they know? Because obviously none of us are downloading form, but what if somebody's sitting here downloading form?
So it would trace back to their user account. So right now, if you're on your Google account and you're accessing your Gmail, and you're emailing yourself photos of little children doing terrible things.
Yeah, no, okay, not me. Yeah. Right.
It'll tie to that. So it's not gonna be the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi is just the way that the account.
But still, yeah, okay. I mean, I guess I kind of,
Cars driving.
yeah, okay.
User account's fine, the IP address is just the highway, that's just how we are on the roadway.
Yeah, because some people have like a protected password, then they have like, I guess, kind of like here, like a public password. So I just have. Right, and you just, you're like, absolutely not. Well, you know, stuff pops up all the time and you're like, where did that come from? I'm ordering food. Yeah.
Set up your Wi-Fi or your router so that you can have guest passwords.
No, but she says don't do that.
No, but guest passwords are limited. You can limit it.
Oh, like what they can do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that what you're on.
Yeah, thank you for the education. All right,
Thank you.
thanks. We have another officer here. We're just-
Yes, position 3, Your Honor, Officer Hernandez, Veronica Hernandez.
Okay, is there, well, let's go over these other ones. Mr. Lang sitting here. Yes. So what about the officers, and you can go on, what about the officers in 5 and 6?
Yes, Your Honor. Do you want me to start with 4?
Oh,
I
okay, well, Mr. Ola, but I'm not trying to, Mr. Lang, he's got 3 cases, 5, 6, and 7. What about
yes, Your Honor.
those?
On position 5, Your Honor, the officer is on leave currently.
On leave?
Yes,
Okay,
and we're asking the court to reset that case to a later date.
okay, what about 6? Just kind of gradually running through it real quick, so. that-
Yes, Your Honor. Position 6 officer is currently in training. That is the reason that the officer is not in court today.
And what about 7?
Same deal, Your Honor. The officer is currently in training, and that's the reason that the officer is not present in court today.
Jonas to bring Mr. Sparrow out real, can y'all get Mr. Sparrow really quickly? Aaron
And-
Sparrow?
Your Honor, what was the announcement on 6? I apologize, I was talking to Attorney Beck.
Officer is in training.
Yeah, so leave and then training.
And I have an update on position 4 as well, Your Honor.
Okay, what's on 4?
Officer is no longer with the agency, with the Sandy Springs Police Department. I believe I mentioned South Fulton before. It's Sandy Springs. And we're asking the court to reset this so that we can get another officer to
All right,
testify.
We'll take that up when Mr. Olive gets up here.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, on the ones on Sparrow real quick, that way Mr. Lane can go and Mr. Olive.
Yes,
I
Your
don't
Honor.
know, I do my best to try to not make people sit here. I never know what to do.
I definitely appreciate that, Your Honor.
You can come on up if you want. As soon as we hear from this won't take but a second. He said leave training. Is it 2 different officers for 5, 6, and 7? One's on leave.
One is also L-E-O-N.
So it's 3 different officers you got. Okay, so leave training. Okay,
Yeah, leave training.
okay. Let me see. I don't know if they've any of them have ever been on the calendar.
Fair.
All right, so this one real quick is positions 5, 6, and 7. Aaron Sparrow, 22 CP 215024, 145 days on all these without indictment, burglary in the 1st degree, theft by taking, felony, criminal damage of property 2nd degree. You got 22 CP 215025, 145 days without indictment, possession of firearm by a convicted felon. 22 CP 215026, 145 days without indictment. BGCSA, possession of Schedule 1 or 2 with intent to distribute, possession of MDMA with intent to distribute, possession of firearm or knife during the commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies, possession of drug-related objects, and possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. On position 5, the officer is Officer Kathleen Leons, Kathlleen. Last name is Leon, as in Nancy, CE, badge number 7364. Officer is currently on leave, and we're asking the court to reset this case so that we can get the officer in court, back in court again at a later date.
How long they're on leave for?
Let me double check on.
Based on your charge.
I just have, the only update that I have, Your Honor, is that the officer is on leave and is currently in New York.
So I mean, do
If
we know 1 week, 2 weeks? I just don't want to,
2 weeks should be sufficient, Your Honor.
what's the next date? Go ahead.
Your Honor, I am going to have a motion for the court, and if, you know, if I'm incorrect in this, I definitely stand to correction. I believe when we started court today, the announcement was that we were waiting on these officers' arrival.
Right.
And
That's-
so sometime during court, we've now learned about them being on leave or in training, meaning these officers never reached out to give a reason as to why they weren't here today. It took, I'm assuming, them being contacted by the state for them to finally offer this information as to why they're not here. I'd ask the court to dismiss all three for want of prosecution, because to me, these officers failed to appear today, and then later, after being hounded by the DA's office, provided a justification as to why they FTA'd. But it sounds like these three officers just no call, no showed today and then had to be harassed for a reason why. I don't want to use the word harassed as in characterizing that the state did something wrong here. I want to be clear on that, but
Your Honor, these cases have not had any previous reset dates, where this is the first time that we're asking for a reset on this, on these cases, so that we can get the officers back in court.
Yeah, but he said that at first you said they were on their way.
I understand, Your Honor.
I mean, in response to what he said, did you not saying, I mean, did you just misspeak? Is that what you were told? And now you just got updated?
Yes, Your Honor, that's my intention.
All right, so that one's on leave, and 6 and 7,
Are in
two
training.
different officers, and they're in training.
Yes, Your Honor.
I guess that's your argument on all of them. I don't know, have any of these been on the calendar before?
no, Your Honor, this is the first time for each.
So you got APD, and South Fulton?
Yes, Your Honor.
So how long is the training? Do we know?
I can ask Ms. Pauls to see if she knows. Your Honor.
The attorney is normally like a few days. It's like in service.
Yeah. I'll give one final reset, but Mr. Lane can look at his schedule and see what worked. Right now it was June, what was it? June 8th.
Thank you, Your Honor.
June 8th would work fine, Your Honor.
All right, so what I have right now, Ms. Chamberlain. Ms. Hollenbeck, final reset for officer to appear in 5, 6, and 7.
Okay, thank you.
June 8th, yeah, it'll be reset to June 8th at what time? 9?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. But it'll be the only reset, one and only reset for them.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Lane?
Call me, Your Honor.
Your Honor, are we doing number 3 as the next?
Yes.
Antonio Colbert.
Excuse me, Your Honor, can I get the officer's name in position 6?
So position 6 is Officer Carter, Carter. And then Officer Quinn for position 7, Quinn.
We're gonna try.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what we're gonna do.
Anything else? Oh, thank you. Thank you, LT. Did Osby leave already?
Your Honor.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. All
Nothing
right.
further on that case, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, sir. Best of luck to you. See you in June.
I'll see you this evening as well, Your Honor, at night court.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Well, I meant him. I'll see him in June, but I'll see you this evening.
Sit it down here so you can sign it.
It wasn't Osby up there, but okay.
she left.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. All right.
I-
So, Mr. Olive, we got this. So, do you want to bring out Dunn after this? He said the officers no longer works for Sandy Springs.
Just
They should-
gotta get him out of the way.
Okay. Well, who are they bringing out now? Who'd you tell them to
I-
bring out?
Number 3, Your Honor,
Oh, you told them to
Antonio
bring out
Colbert.
3. Okay.
But if you'd like,
I mean, 6 of 1, whatever's ready. So. Is this case gonna be yours too?
Yes,
What the?
I just filed a substitution counsel, so
Okay,
that should be in by the end of the day. Or
Your
tomorrow.
Honor,
yes.
may I run to the bathroom? real
Sure.
quick? Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Wait, who else was also? Why did Mr. Houston leave? Oh, he was a PD. He left too.
I don't remember seeing him.
Yeah, I think he was at the PD, so. Wonder if he went to the DA's office.
The
Okay.
Seabrook Culver judge is fine.
All right, Colbert, that's fine. Unless you want to have it, well, he's gone now.
Yeah,
This is reference, so.
Boy,
I mean, we can bring him out real quick. If they want. Also, when the DA gets back, you want to bring out Darquez Dunn? Because this is gonna be reset, or maybe, I don't know, the first time it's been on. Where is? Just. Darquez Dunn. Okay, looks like it's the first, but no longer with the agency. I don't know what he's gonna want on.
I'm sorry.
Said he's no longer with the agency. I don't know if he knows where he went. Or she, or they. Is it raining outside? Is it raining? Oh, it was raining when you came. You have cases tonight too?
I have one. Yeah, I gotta make it to the jail for
Wait, let's see.
that interview.
I just took some off.
Yeah. Steve Lockford, I believe his name.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's got that. Well, it shouldn't take too long. We've been getting lucky so far. Getting done fairly quick. All right, so they're gonna bring Mr. Dunn out really quick and just let him stand there. As soon as LT will get him, and then we'll knock that one out too,
Yes, Your Honor.
real quick. Soon as. You want to tell LT where she can bring him out? Or- He walked out. You don't bring him out, LT? All right, Mr. Dunn, this is position 4, 22 CP 214839, 155 days without indictment. got entering auto with intent to commit a theft or felony, financial transaction card theft, and financial transaction card fraud. What says the state about Officer Detective Charles?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Charles Needham. That's Needham. With the Sandy Springs Police Department, badge number 235. Officer is no longer with the agency, and we're asking the court to reset this case so that we can get another officer in court to testify.
I mean, do you know where that officer is, or you just,
At the moment, Your Honor, we do not have
okay, so
any
just gonna try to find somebody. Go ahead, Mr. Early.
We won't object to a one-time reset.
All right. Do you want the same thing, June the 8th?
Yes, Your Honor, that would be fine.
June the 8th at 1 p.m. Mr. Olaf, that works. All right, sir. So the officer who had the case is no longer at Sandy Springs. They're going to try to get another officer. So we'll be back basically in about 12 days. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Can we address bond or?
Sure. We can address, you want to address bond real quick. Bostic, you there? And awake? He's got a $25,000 good bond as of December the 21st, Bostic.
This is done,
Wow, that's it, Bostic.
done.
Yes.
23 prior arrests, 2 misdemeanors, FTA. Took a first offender on burglary, prior entering auto theft by receiving couple of open cases in DeKalb for a financial transaction and entering auto. Nothing further.
All right, good, Mr. Olaf.
All right, thank you, Judge. Mr. Dunn is 29 years old. He's lived here in Georgia his entire life. His entire family's here. The address on file is a good address. He lives there with his mother. He's got his high school graduate with some college. And prior to being arrested, he was working at K&D Landscape as a landscaper, and he can return to that job. I understand that he got previous charges, but he doesn't really have a violent history, Judge. We just asked for, a reduction in this bond, not to exceed $10,000. Thank you.
All right, what says the state?
Yes, Your Honor. As for this defendant, this defendant has multiple prior charges and felony convictions. The majority of them have been for theft offenses, and here we are again for quite a few different theft offenses. Again, for the threat or danger to the community property remains extreme. The chances of the defendant for the same exact reasoning remains extreme. What the bond that's currently set is sufficient when we're asking the court to keep that same bond, Your Honor.
And I forgot to add, Judge, I'll be in DeKalb County.
Okay, all right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 5610 Roswell Road, 5610 Roswell Road, and stay away from 33 Lafayette Way in Atlanta. No further contact with Luis, Louis Guzman, Guzman. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. You're gonna have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment. As long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working. Also, sir, stay out of Fulton County. The only reason you come to Fulton County is court or to see your lawyer, okay? Don't stop for gas, don't get a flat tire, any of that. Straight to court, straight to see your lawyer, and leave Fulton County. Let's see, let me pull this over. I know it's previously 25, so let's see.
1555, Your Honor.
What is it?
1555.
All right, so we'll do 5, 5, and 5. 15,000 total. Best of luck to you, sir. See you in June. All right, detective, raise your right hand. You swear a firm testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, can you state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Veronica Hernandez, VERONEKA, Hernandez, HERNANDEZ.
All right, so we got 22 CP 214816, Antonio Colbert, 155 days without indictment, and it was a pretrial bond surrender, and it's entering automobile with a intent to commit a theft or a felony. Go ahead. What says the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you so much, Officer Hernandez, for being here. As it pertains to December 19th, 2022, where were you employed at that time?
City of Atlanta Police Department,
And in what capacity?
investigator.
Were you post certified?
Yes.
Thank you. And let's go over the events of that day, December 19th, 2022. Can you tell us what happened?
Officers that were working patrol in the area of Spring Street got a few calls from security and residents of one of the apartments over there about individuals casing vehicles, parked vehicles. They've been having a lot of problems with vehicle break-ins, and what we'll see is that they'll canvass the area before, smashing in the windows. When the officer approached, he saw Mr. Colbert and another individual walking up and down between the vehicles that were parked. As he stopped, they turned around and started going the other way. He immediately recognized Mr. Colbert as Antonio Colbert. He's dealt with him when he was a juvenile. And also I did put out a lookout for ID assistance in identifying the individual in one of my entering auto cases I was working, which showed him entering into a vehicle, taking out belongings and getting back into another vehicle.
What is the address of the location that you're referencing?
I'm gonna take a look. The incident that I was referring to that I have footage of him breaking into a vehicle was at 85 John Wesley Dobbs Avenue. He was stopped near 930 Spring Street.
What is the 190 Marietta Street that you're referencing in your warrants?
Prior, when we were out on patrol, not patrol, but we were responding to officers needed assistance in interviewing other individuals that they had detained that had some tools on them for entering auto. So we just came out there to help with the debrief. 190 Marietta is going to be the Zone 5 CNN precinct.
And what county is the incident location located at?
Fulton County.
Thank you. And you mentioned that there was another officer present. Who was that other officer?
There's another investigator with me. That would be, he's now a Sergeant Romer. And then the officer that did stop Antonio Colbert was Officer Blackman.
How were you involved in this particular incident?
When I put out the lookout for ID assistance of Antonio Colbert, I put it out citywide and got multiple emails back, telling me, hey, this is Antonio Colbert. And then just about 3 days later, the Officer Blackman has, got that 911 call about people canvassing the area, and he stopped them. And he let me know he had my city number, and he called and said, hey, this is Antonio Colbert. That's gonna be the guy that, I emailed you about in reference to the auto break-in over in John Wesley Dobb.
And how were you able to verify that?
When speaking to Mr. Colbert, just showed him or speak with him about it. Of course, he wasn't very cooperative about the incident, but just showed him a photo of the individual's face that I had from the video taken over at John Wesley Dobb. It was just that the photo was just of the face. Didn't show the vehicle, didn't show the background, didn't show anything at all that would be suggestive, and asked him, does he know who this is? And off of that, he said, why are you showing me a photo of someone breaking into a vehicle?
And what vehicle is the one that's referenced in your warrant?
It looks like it's going to be the black Volkswagen Tiguan.
Do you know the year of the
2022 with the Georgia tag, Charlie Uncle X-ray 5701.
And who did the car belong to?
Last name Son, first name, I'm gonna spell it. I can't pronounce that. It's gonna be X-ray Ida Adam Oscar.
And as far as you mentioned that there was a break-in to the vehicle, what items, if any, were taken from the car?
I believe he said it was like a few things like work tools, a jacket, sunglasses, miscellaneous items.
And do you recognize Mr. Colbert in the courtroom today? You can stand up if you'd like.
Feel free to stand up if you need to. It's hard to see here.
Yes, sir.
Could you please identify an item of clothing and a facial feature that you see of Mr. Colbert?
In the courtroom now?
Yes.
His hair.
Can you describe it?
Oh, fro, a little bit of twist going on with it, mustache, blue shirt, long sleeve white shirt.
Thank you. May I have a seat? Your Honor, let the record reflect that the detective has clearly identified the defendant sitting at the defense table in this case.
All right, noted. Thank you.
No further questions.
All right, Cross.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, investigator. My name is Brian Olive. I represent Mr. Colbert. So on the night that you arrested Mr. Colbert, you said that you saw him walking down the street.
The officers did. The officers seen him walking in between vehicles that were parked on Spring Street.
Okay. So how did you come in contact with Mr. Colbert?
Officer Blackman, he had contacted me and asked me to meet him at the location that he had Mr. Colbert detained. Came out there, read him his rights and spoke with him after he wished to speak with me.
Okay, so why did Sergeant Colbert arrest Mr. I'm sorry. What was it? Blackman, I'm sorry. Why did Sergeant Blackman arrest
Officer Blackman, he detained him. So he didn't have anything on him other than he was just a suspicious person that he got a call about that was canvassing the area.
Okay, but all right, and so he was Mirandized?
Yes.
All right. And so the picture that you showed Mr. Colbert, did that have his face in the picture?
Yes, it was only of the face.
Okay, so you just had the picture of his face in there. And where did you get that again?
It was a still shot from a video that was recorded of Mr. Colbert breaking into the black Volkswagen Tiguan.
And saying, where did you get that video?
That video was actually surfacing around on Instagram, and then the individual that actually took it had reached out to us and provided it for us, so we weren't just using social media.
So that wasn't the victim filming it?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. And do you know if that video has been preserved?
It should be attached. It might have. I'm not for certain.
Okay. And were you wearing a body cam when you're interviewing Mr. Colbert?
Yes, sir.
And has that a video been preserved?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions.
Anything else?
Nothing else from the state, Your Honor.
All right, anything else? Anything else, Dr. Taylor?
I'll be back in 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Stay safe out there.
Thank you, you as well.
All right, go ahead with the argument.
We submitted the evidence, Judge.
All right, probable cause. Let's see, do we have to find it here? Let's see. Mr. Colbert. It's like there's a $4,000 good bond as of April 17th.
And is that on this case or? So was this the one, I'm sorry, was this the case that they surrendered pretrial on?
Yes.
Okay.
I was waiting for y'all to finish talking. One prior adult arrest. Another open case 22 CP 214-430 for entering auto.
He's nice to you, Mr. Olaf, so I should have made
Yeah,
you call.
I appreciate that.
All right, go ahead.
All right, Mr. Colbert is 18 years old. He's a lifelong Atlanta resident. His entire family lives here. He's trying to graduate high school, but he obviously hasn't been attending since he's been incarcerated. He worked for a box truck return company for 6 months, and he believes that he can return upon release. He attends church regularly. See, the address on file is a good address. He lives there with his mother and his grandmother. Yeah, with the 4,000 bond, he hasn't been able to bond out, Your Honor. So we just asked for a bond not to exceed $1,000. Thank you.
What says the state?
Yes, Your Honor, the current, based on the history of this defendant, the current bond that's set is more than sufficient, and we're asking the court to find, to set the bond at the currently set amount.
All right, let's see. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 930 Spring Street Northwest in Atlanta. You're gonna have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment. Also school, if you want to go back to school, but with work, you have to show the name of your employer, proof of employment, schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working. In school, you'll have to show enrollment if you're going to go back to summer school and that you're actually going. Also, no further contact with XIAO, last name Sun, SUN. And part of the condition of your employment, so Ms. Hollenbach, is that if his mother or grandmother pays anything out of pocket to bail you out of jail, you have to pay them back. Either in sweat equity, me doing chores, cleaning, taking out the garbage, cutting the grass, whatever, or you have to pay them back. So if they come out of pocket for money to get you out of jail, you are to pay them back every penny that they do. $2,000 good bond. Best of luck to you, sir. Wait, hold on a minute. How long's it been in? 155 days? 155 days. All right. $1,500 good bond. Best of luck to you. Still pay your mama and grandmama back. I think that's it. Besides, we ever hear from Mr. Luwamba? Did he not come the other day?
Well, that's just gone for
You got $1,500.
Your Honor, I think he may be in fear of seeing me. That's one.
In fear of seeing you. I mean, he's never been like not showed up before. That's just. Did you email him too? Huh? What do you say? Yeah, I guess you want to bring out
Today is the.
Jaden Tyler. Let me see if we can. Let's see. It's not like, I can't. So.
This was the pre-trial, pre-trial, okay? Pre-trial.
Is he a public defender? I thought he was a.
Who y'all asking about, Judge?
Luwemba? Position 2. Thank you, Mr. Olaf. I'll see you this evening.
Judge. See you
If
this
you just
evening.
have one, remind me, I'll try to take care of yours
I don't
first.
remember him being a public defender.
I got 2440. Is it the last of his phone number?
What was that last?
I think so. No one's picking up. Thank you. They have a good one. Yeah, you can be excused.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, let me want to stop the stream here. Well, I guess you can stay because we got to tell this guy
Oh,
when he comes out real quick.
Number I have
Is it in 2440?
it ends in 9251. Number they gave me, you gave me your phone.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I don't know.
I'm trying to copy that email so I can email him because I will never spell this right. Doesn't let you like. Did it say anything?
Leave a message.
That's okay. Leave a message. Sounds like my dad's. Hey, Mr. Tyler. And this is position 2, 22 CP 210614. Mr. Tyler, have you spoken with your lawyer?
Oh, man.
How long has it been since you've spoken with him?
10 months.
Wow, you've heard nothing from him. Let's see. He didn't show up last week, which now this is starting to get a little aggravating, but let's see. Hopefully nothing's happened to him. All right. Yeah. The last time you've been to court is in July, right? July of last year.
I ain't go to court.
Well, you had to because you got a bond. That was your first. Yeah, first period. Right. And have you spoke to him since then?
I've never seen.
Mohammed Luwamba. That's sound familiar? Sound like it is? That's who's on here. All right, so let's see if this will let me. So it's because on here it has that he was at Public Defenders Training Council in Washington Street, but I guess he's not there anymore. We're gonna reset it out. We'll reset out to June 8th. But until then, I'm gonna try to reach out to him and find out why he isn't here, because last week he wasn't here either. And we need to get, I mean, you're sitting there with a $35,000 bond, so we'll get to the bottom of it, okay? Sir, yes, sir. We will get to the bottom of it for sure and get back to you. Thank you, sir.
Maybe excuse you, Honor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Honor.
All right, have a good one. Go ahead and stop the stream. All right, Ms. Hollenbeck, thank you, Ms. Sims. See y'all shortly.